Hey, what's good, self-directed investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're going to cover what has happened so far this week and what we can expect for the rest of this week in cannabis, because there are a lot of developments, or at least dominoes, that are falling into place, as any cannabis investor would hope. So I'm just going to track what we can expect and just bring up some interesting news that we've seen develop as well. So before we jump in, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a thumbs up. It really helps out the channel. Helps my videos get seen. I would really appreciate it as well. And of course, if you can subscribe, you can see more of my content, more of This Week in Cannabis, or any weekly videos that I come out with, whether it's about ETFs explained or weekly updates in the cannabis industry. And last but not least, if you have not opened up your self-directed tax-free savings account and you are in Canada, there are links below to Canada's top discount brokers. So you've got Quest Trade and Wealthsimple Trade. If you use those links, you get a bit of free money to open up your self-directed tax-free savings account, and then you can always reach out to me and we can do a Zoom call and I can show you how to navigate the platform and educate you so that you can get started on the right foot. So without further ado, we're just going to jump in because some big votes have taken place or are planned to take place this week. One includes the UN voting to approve the World Health Organization's recommendation to reschedule cannabis in this historic vote. So this was supposed to happen last December, I believe. It got postponed to April, but because of the coronavirus, it got postponed to December. And today, this morning, as of 5 hours ago, the UN Commission on Narcotic Drugs on Wednesday accepted the recommendation to remove cannabis and cannabis resin from the Schedule 4 of the 1961 Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs. So this historic vote is good for the global medical cannabis industry. Again, it's still very small and has not been able to move forward because of this scheduling classification. But the votes came in favor of 27 to change it, 1 abstention, and 25 votes against. So it was kind of a close vote. But this is big. Now, they have not looked at the remaining 5 recommendations, but this awareness is just important because cannabis was in the the European pharmacopoeia. It was in the U.S. pharmacopoeia up until 1942. It was added in the U.S. pharmacopoeia in 1850, removed in 1942 because Harry Anslinger wanted it taken out, and that's what eventually helped him tell everyone on the UN, hey, look, we're going to sign this thing about drugs. You need to side with us on cannabis, otherwise we're not going to vote on any of your issues that you want. And that's exactly how cannabis got to be added into this convention in the first place. So it was, the US being the power saying, look, we have the power of the world. We want you to agree with us about this plant, and if you don't, we're going to veto everything that you try and pass through here. So of course the country's obliged, and it's just crazy that it's been 60 years since then that we're getting this out. But what does this really point to? It doesn't change a whole lot. It is certainly good awareness for cannabis as medicine and whatnot. But for those countries, basically that mirror the UN scheduling for their domestic legislation, it will lead to countries to deschedule from any controlled substances sort of category they have it in, and remove obstacles to use cannabis for medicinal research purposes. And I think this is the biggest thing, research. There has not been able to be any research because of the US laws. So with this change, again, slowly but surely, we're just getting closer to finding out more about this plant and, potential better therapeutic uses, or at least evidence and how it's more beneficial than harmful for people. Because of course, we've known that all along, but of course, we need the hard evidence these days. Now, the vote could encourage countries to reevaluate how cannabis is classified in their own list of narcotic drugs, potentially paving way for more research into medical cannabis. So, it's one step in the right direction. Now, these are the other recommendations that they still need to work on, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I don't want to make this too long, so you can find all these resources that I list in the description below. But nonetheless, this is huge. So at least the UN has agreed, and it's look, it's time to reschedule cannabis for medicine. Next conversation we need is adult use. Now, I just want to jump over to this article. This is referencing the European Court of Justice CBD ruling last week. It's just funny how they mention that it's going to make it easier for European countries to classify CBD, but the Biden win will provide a boost to these companies. Of course, shares in Canadian producer Aurora Cannabis have risen. They basically mentioned the one common cannabis company that everyone tends to pump that goes up 20% one day, goes down 20% the next day, the worst possible company you can invest in. The only company that has proven to have a complete disregard for shareholder values or shareholder money for 3 consecutive years in a row. So it's just funny how these news articles certainly don't know the top picks, right? So as I'll mention to you folks, the only companies in Canada really worth investing in long term would be Aphria, Village Farms Internationals, and then Canopy Growth as well, if they can turn it around, mainly just because they have the backing of Constellation Brands. And then I guess Kronos as well, same idea, though they have the backing of Altria. But besides those, where the real value is in these US multi-state operators that are producing double the revenue of Aphria and Canopy already, and trading at 1/5 of the market cap of Canopy and around the same valuation of Aphria. So just funny that when you see these news articles, you really just got to be careful of what they're recommending, because they're just pumping names that are common. But as we've seen from past videos, Aurora is certainly not the most shareholder friendly. Now, the House of Representatives schedules the vote on the MORE Act. This was exciting to see because I didn't realize it was happening this soon. But the Democratic leadership in the House scheduled a vote on legislation to end the federal prohibition of cannabis for next week, according to this announcement by Steny Hoyer. And it was supposed to take place Wednesday today to Friday, December 4th, which is huge. Now, one thing I did want to point out here, if passed, the MORE Act would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. True. And allow states to set their own cannabis regulation policies. That's not true. Unfortunately, this is the States Act. They are referring to another bill called the States Act. The States Act has not passed the Senate yet, but it is a bill that's been introduced that hopefully will go in for a vote at some point. Now, the Safe Banking Act, another bill of the three, has passed the House. So today, or not today, but this week, if the House votes to pass the MORE Act, that will be the second bill to pass the House. The States Act would be the third one that needs to pass, at least the House to go into the Senate. But that's at least two bills that have passed through the House, showing the legitimacy of whatever it's providing, either decriminalizing cannabis, descheduling it from the Schedule 1 classification. See, that's what they don't even mention in here, and that's the most important thing, is getting cannabis out of that Schedule 1 classification. So it's getting it out of that controlled substances umbrella so that you can, use it for many, many other resources and no one has control over it. But yeah, so the bill would expunge the records. They missed the most important thing, though, was descheduling it. And yeah, unfortunately, this is the States Act, so this is not what this bill does, but the MORE Act is still quite impressive. We have it right here. Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. So the main thing, yes, it removes cannabis from the list of scheduled substances, which is the biggest thing, and then it eliminates criminal penalties for any individuals who manufacture, so it decriminalizes it. Changes the name as well to cannabis, or from marijuana with a J to marijuana with an H. Again, if you can just get rid of marijuana and just do cannabis and hemp, it makes it so much easier to understand which plant you're talking about. And all this good stuff, but unfortunately just not the States Act yet, or just not letting states make their own legislation. But this is the big thing, folks. I didn't realize it was this soon, but today they are meeting to chat about it. I don't believe the vote has taken place today. It should take place within the next few days. Hopefully tomorrow or Friday, the vote at least, but the conversation is heating up. Make the banking laws more favorable to the legal cannabis industry while you're at it. Easy E. coli, absolutely respect that comment and agree with you there. It's important. But folks, this is happening right now, today. Like at 1 p.m., they are meeting. So this is just very fresh. It's happening. It's live. I will definitely, my next video on Sunday, I will update every development from this, but it's exciting. If you're an investor, these are the dominoes, and, the UN has fallen today. If this domino falls by the end of this week, the stocks have been running again up today a bit. It's very exciting to see. So last thing, this is a bit of an older article, but newly legal states offer cannabis growers fresh opportunities. And I just want to point out, again, to elaborate on why I mean that the value is really in the U.S. multi-state operators right now. So the November 3rd election opened the doors for cannabis growers in 5 states that could generate more than $2.5 billion in medical and recreational sales by 2024. So because of this law change, $250 billion can be created from sales that wouldn't have been created otherwise. So this is scale. This is where you can get in, if you can get in at $100 million price point and ride that up to $1 billion, that's 5x or, double, tripling, quadrupling your money kind of thing. That's where the big opportunity is in these states where they're expecting some growth. And of course, the big ones to be talked about here are New Jersey and Arizona. These are the clear favorites with their impending recreational cannabis markets, building off their populations. New Jersey has 20 million people. Arizona has 7 million. Now, of course, Montana, South Dakota, and Mississippi, they will benefit, but their markets just aren't as big. So main thing I wanted to point out down here, Arizona, because they've just legalized adult use and they've got 7 million people, they can expect the state will generate $760 million in annual recreational sales by 2024. And I just want to point out, this is why I chose Harvest health and recreation. In my last video, I mentioned that at the end of my portfolio. If the price falls below where I got in at 225, I'm going to keep buying more because I see Harvest valued at roughly 350 million market cap as an opportunity to rise up to 1 billion, by the end of 2021 because of Arizona's expansion alone. Because if that company can, for example, become profitable in the next 6 months and then capitalize on this expanded growth, a lot of potential and the upside there. And again, that's where it's like if you can get in at 300 million, and ride that up to 1.5 billion market cap, that is where you'll see big gains in your money. And so the last one down here, New Jersey. Just want to mention, of course, this is going to be the trigger for the other states around it because they're going to be jealous of this tax money, but 20 million people. So they're expecting recreational sales of $1 billion by 2024. So just think about that. This entire market is going to be adding at least 2.5 billion or close to 2.5 billion in medical and recreational cannabis sales, plus all the other states. And this is what I'm going to cover right now. Michigan adult use cannabis sales has exceeded 400 million in its first year. That's fantastic. Michigan has a population of 10 million people, so this is a fantastic start. They've got 75 recreational stores, so obviously the more stores that can open up, the more potential to grow this number. But it projects recreational sales will total 1.9 billion to 2.4 billion in 2024. Now, folks, this is why I want to remind you of the first state to do this, Colorado. Look, it took Colorado after their first year. They managed to do $683 million. And Colorado's only got 5 million people. When you compare that to Illinois, who's already surpassed 500 million in this first year, I forgot to check the population of Illinois, but nonetheless, they're already on pace by the end of October to surpass 500 million. Michigan has exceeded 400 million in its first year, again, probably up until November. So if we were to treat Illinois, if we were to treat Michigan like Colorado, getting to 683 million in its first year, it's going to double by second year, triple in the third year, quadruple in the fourth year. And folks, this is why I'm saying the growth is in the MSOs in these fresh new states. This is huge. And, Colorado has just continued growing since then. And although it, doesn't compound as quickly, this is where the growth is in these U.S. MSOs. And just to point out this is the second U.S. state to reach $1 billion in tax revenue. Oregon cannabis sales hit the magic number for the first time of 1 billion, up 40%. Compared to 726 million sold in 2019. So whether it's the popularity rising, more people becoming exposed and dropping their old stigmas, just think of these numbers, folks. Colorado. All of these links will be in the description below. But what do you think, folks? Which MSOs are you picking? Do you think the House is going to vote to pass that bill? Now, of course, remember this. If it goes into the Senate and Mitch McConnell is still the Senate Majority Leader, he can throw that down. But I think fundamentally for the Democratic-run House to vote on this bill and pass it is very good awareness to voters that the Democratic Party is at least making an attempt to right the wrong of cannabis prohibition and to try and, get tax revenue into states and get jobs into states. That is what the Democrats are doing with this vote. So whether it gets in through the Senate or not, this vote is more of a reflection of who is for the people when it comes to that January Senate vote on the 5th in Georgia, who's going to decide the Senate for the next 4 years. So nonetheless, folks, hope you got some value out of this episode. If you liked it, make sure you leave a thumbs up and leave any comments down below. Let's start a discussion, and I will be back Sunday with a new episode to cover out what happens for the rest of the week. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.